Becky Hammond wouldn't let her?
I don't know. We'll see. Look, injuries. She came back. She finished that game in Chicago. Sometimes you come back and, she's historically been a very quick healer. She's still young. So, we don't want to rush back. I think if this was a playoff game, she'd probably be playing.
Becky Hammon just got caught in the most blatant, undeniable, absolutely catastrophic display of sabotage against Caitlin Clark that we have documented this entire season. And the footage is right here in front of us, captured on live television with cameras rolling in front of thousands of witnesses. The Las Vegas Aces head coach walked off the court after a brutal home loss to the Indiana Fever with a smile plastered across her face like she just won the championship, like she just secured a playoff berth, like she just accomplished exactly what she set out to do. Becky Hammon lost at home, lost badly, got absolutely demolished by a Fever team that was supposed to be beatable without their star player firing on all cylinders. And yet there she was grinning, laughing, embracing Indiana Fever head coach Stephanie White in a post-game interaction so suspicious, so deliberate, so calculated that fans across the internet are calling it out in real time. The whispers, the covered mouths, the knowing smiles, the absolute refusal to let a Ja Wilson play when Wilson herself confirmed she was ready to go, ready to compete, ready to win. And Becky Hammon, a coach who has built her entire reputation on being a competitor, on being relentless, on demanding excellence, sat her franchise player on the bench and let the game slip away. On purpose, with intent, and then celebrated afterward like mission accomplished. Welcome back. This is Hoops Central, and today we are ripping the doors off the most glaring coaching conspiracy the WNBA has tried to bury this season, the coordinated effort between multiple head coaches to control the MVP narrative, manipulate playoff seeding, and ensure that Caitlin Clark's impact on this league gets diminished, downplayed, and erased from the history books before she even hits her prime. And I have got receipts. I have got footage. I have got insider confirmation. And I have got 5 predictions that are going to come true over the next 2 weeks, and when they do, I want every single person watching this video to come back and tell me I called it.
And that's where I don't understand the players that felt like, well, we need to make sure Caitlin Clark knows that she's still a rookie, or at this point now a third-year player, but she got to earn her stripes. Everybody's paycheck is bigger because of her. And that's I don't understand. But the WNBA, they've gone too fast. They went too fast in getting to where they're at, and I don't feel like they've been able to keep up with some of the other, like you said, how they're handling Caitlin Clark, how they're handling even the expansion, how they're handling these types of situations. And it could be done pretty simply by coming out and having Caitlin Clark's back. Now, it's going to tick off the rest of the league, but to understand, we're shutting this down. And that's where I don't...
I'm with him.
Before we get into what Becky Hammon admitted on camera in the post-game press conference, and trust me, you are going to want to hear this word for word, I need you to understand the context that mainstream media has completely ignored. The Las Vegas Aces came into this game against the Indiana Fever with everything on the line: playoff positioning, momentum heading into the postseason, a chance to prove that they are still the dominant force in this league even with the Fever surging behind Caitlin Clark's historic rookie season. And a Ja Wilson, the reigning MVP, the face of the Aces franchise, the player who has been in an absolute war with Clark for individual accolades all year long, was cleared to play. She finished the previous game in Chicago. She came back from her injury. She is historically a fast healer. Becky Hammon herself said that on the record. Wilson wanted to play, she told her coach she was ready, and Hammon looked her in the eye and said, "No, not tonight, sit down. Watch from the bench while we lose at home to the team your biggest rival plays for." And then after the loss, after getting embarrassed on their own floor in front of their own fans, Becky Hammon walked across the court with the biggest smile you have ever seen and embraced Stephanie White like they just pulled off the heist of the century. Let me paint the picture for you because this is where it gets absolutely insane. The game ends. The Fever win. Caitlin Clark and her teammates are celebrating a road victory against one of the best teams in the league. And the camera cuts to the post-game handshake line. Normal stuff, right? Coaches shake hands, players congratulate each other, professional courtesy. Except what we see is anything but normal. Becky Hammon is beaming, not frustrated, not disappointed, not angry at the loss, beaming. She walks up to Stephanie White and the two of them lock eyes like they are sharing an inside joke that nobody else in the building is allowed to hear. They embrace. They lean in close. Hammon covers her mouth while she whispers something directly into White's ear. White nods, smiles, whispers something back, and then they both laugh after a loss. After a game that had massive implications for playoff seeding. After Hammon deliberately held out her best player for reasons that make absolutely zero competitive sense. And fans watching this live started flooding the comment sections, flooding social media, flooding every basketball forum on the internet with the same question: what in the world did we just witness? One commenter, and I am reading this verbatim because it captures exactly what thousands of people were thinking, wrote, "This isn't a coincidence. That embrace was saying thank you for helping our agenda." Another wrote, "Don't you see the Fever play better without CC? Watch CC get benched the rest of the season." Stephanie White continues to win. So CC is the problem. Another said, Becky Hammon and Stephanie White covering their faces when they are talking, fishy indeed. And here's the thing that should terrify every single Caitlin Clark fan watching this video. These are not conspiracy theorists. These are not casual fans looking for drama. These are people who have been watching this league all season long, who have seen the pattern, who have documented the referees letting Clark get mauled without calls, who have watched coaches make inexplicable rotations that hurt their own teams just to keep Clark from getting signature moments, who have listened to the establishment media downplay her accomplishments at every turn. And now we have visual evidence of two head coaches celebrating a result that actively damages the competitive integrity of the game. That is not coaching. That is sabotage.
By the name of Kathy Engelbert, she may go down as the worst commissioner of any sport in the history of any of our lifetimes combined.
Yeah, he's cooking right now. He's cooking.
Caitlin Clark has been targeted ever since she came into the WNBA.
Mm-hmm.
They have practically molested her physically.
Damn.
And non-calls made. And I think, talk about racism. And I can't help but think, what is the mentality of these opposing players doing this to her when they should be kissing her tail for putting that sport on the map when nobody cared about it?
That's a fact. He's cooking.
The only reason a double tail for putting that sport on the map when nobody cared about it. The only reason WNBA is in existence is because the NBA is funding it. And she's put it on the map. She's putting fans in the seats, and they're targeting her to this day.
Now let me take you inside the press conference, because this is where Becky Hammon gave the game away. A reporter asked her the obvious question, why didn't A'ja Wilson play tonight? Simple question, straightforward answer expected. And what Hammon said next should be played on a loop for every single person who still thinks this league is operating in good faith. Listen to how she frames it. Listen to the language she uses. Listen to what she refuses to say. Because the subtext is deafening, don't take my word for it. Becky Hammon said it herself, with cameras rolling, on the record. Watch this.
It's just amazing that she's remained silent, and she's fearing for her life. And apparently Caitlin Clark was supposed to go on social media and defend herself being punched in the throat.
It's just so crazy. And here's the thing, like we talked about before, if you want to kill the goose that laid the golden egg, keep this up. Everybody wants to love this sport. Everybody wants to love this player.
Yeah.
Take the ride, baby. Take the W. Instead, they are wrecking their own sport by not only not calling fouls when they should, they're making it even worse because they're making casual fans like me. I'm not a fan, but you know, if Caitlin Clark's going to be on, might I leave the remote on for a couple of minutes? Sure, but not as long as I think they're missed.
She wants to play. I'm not letting her play. She wants to play. I'm not letting her play. Let me say that back to you in case you missed it the first time, because this is the most damning admission a coach can make in this situation. A'ja Wilson, the MVP candidate, the franchise cornerstone, the player who has carried this team for years, told her coach she was ready to compete, ready to go to war, ready to put the team on her back and secure a crucial win against a division rival. And Becky Hammon looked at her and said no, not because Wilson was injured. Hammon admitted Wilson is a fast healer, admitted she finished the previous game, admitted that if this were a playoff game, Wilson would be playing. So what changed? What is the difference between a playoff game and a regular season game in early March that has massive playoff seeding implications? I will tell you what the difference is. In a playoff game, the entire basketball world is watching. The narrative is locked in. The stakes are undeniable. But in a regular season game against the Indiana Fever, against the team that employs Caitlin Clark, the player who is threatening to overshadow every established star in this league, Becky Hammon had an opportunity to do something that benefits the old guard, the establishment, the people who run this league behind closed doors. She had an opportunity to let the Fever win, let Stephanie White look like a genius, let the narrative build that Indiana is figuring it out, that they are a legitimate threat, that maybe Caitlin Clark is not the sole reason for their success. And she took it. She sat her best player. She smiled through the loss, and she celebrated with the opposing coach like they just executed a perfect game plan. And for Becky Hammon to be that happy after looking that bad, after getting outcoached, outplayed, and embarrassed on her home floor, it is raising eyebrows across the entire basketball community. This is not normal behavior. Coaches do not smile after losses unless they got exactly what they wanted. And what Becky Hammon wanted was not a win. It was something else entirely.
Becky Hammon wouldn't let her?
I don't know. We'll see. Look, injuries. She came back. She finished that game in Chicago. Sometimes you come back and, she's historically been a very quick healer. She's still young. So, we don't want to rush back. I think if this was a playoff game, she'd probably be playing.
Now I need to take you to the other side of this story, because while Becky Hammon is out here sabotaging her own team to protect the establishment, the media is working overtime to tear down Caitlin Clark's legacy before it even gets written. And I have got the footage to prove it. Analysts on national television are floating the idea that Clark is being treated fairly, that the physicality she endures every single night is just part of earning your stripes as a rookie, that she needs to stop complaining and accept that this is how the WNBA works. Except here is the problem with that narrative. Every single veteran player who has spoken honestly about this situation has said the exact opposite. They have said the targeting is unprecedented. The non-calls are egregious. The silence from the league office is deliberate. And now we have commentators on major networks calling it out in real time. One analyst broke it down in a way that should be mandatory viewing for every person who still thinks Caitlin Clark is being treated like every other rookie in WNBA history. Listen to what he said. Listen to how he frames the jealousy, the envy, the refusal of this league to protect its biggest star. Because he is cooking, and I mean cooking.
And that's where I don't understand the players that felt like, well, we need to make sure Caitlin Clark knows that she's still a rookie, or at this point now a third-year player, but she got to earn her stripes. Everybody's paycheck is bigger because of her. And that's I don't understand. But the WNBA, they've gone too fast. They went too fast in getting to where they're at, and I don't feel like they've been able to keep up with some of the other, like you said, how they're handling Caitlin Clark, how they're handling even the expansion, how they're handling these types of situations. And it could be done pretty simply by coming out and having Caitlin Clark's back. Now it's going to tick off the rest of the league, but to understand, we're shutting this down. And that's where I don't...
I'm with him.
Everybody's paycheck is bigger because of her. Everybody's paycheck is bigger because of her. That is the part that the establishment does not want you to focus on. Caitlin Clark is not just a talented rookie. She is not just a ratings draw. She is the single biggest financial catalyst this league has ever seen. Attendance is up across the board. Television viewership has doubled in markets where the Fever play. Merchandise sales have exploded. Sponsorship deals that were dead in the water for years are suddenly getting signed because brands want to be associated with Caitlin Clark. And every single player in this league, from the superstars to the end-of-bench role players, is benefiting financially from her presence. Their salary cap is going up, their per diem is going up, their travel conditions are improving, their exposure is increasing, all because of one player. And instead of embracing that reality, instead of protecting her, instead of celebrating the fact that she is putting this league on the map in a way that nobody else ever has, the old guard is doing everything in their power to make her life miserable, to break her spirit, to force her into silence, to make sure she knows her place. And the commentator nailed it when he said the WNBA went too fast. They were not ready for Caitlin Clark. They were not ready for the spotlight. They were not ready for the scrutiny. They were not ready for a player who could actually deliver on the hype and force the entire sports world to pay attention. And now that she is here, now that she is thriving, now that she is proving every doubter wrong, the league does not know how to handle it. So instead of adapting, instead of evolving, instead of doing the smart thing and building the entire league around her the way the NBA built around Magic and Bird and Jordan and LeBron, they are trying to tear her down. And it is going to backfire spectacularly.
By the name of Kathy Engelbert, she may go down as the worst commissioner of any sport in the history of any of our lifetimes combined.
Yeah, he's cooking right now. He's cooking.
Caitlin Clark has been targeted ever since she came into the WNBA.
Mm-hmm.
They have practically molested her physically.
Damn.
And non-calls made. And I think, talk about racism. And I can't help but think, what is the mentality of these opposing players doing this to her when they should be kissing her tail for putting that sport on the map when nobody cared about it?
That's a fact. He's cooking.
The only reason double tail for putting that sport on the map when nobody cared about it. The only reason WNBA is in existence is because the NBA is funding it. And she's put it on the map. She's putting fans in the seats, and they're targeting her to this day.
But it gets even worse, because this is not just about jealousy from players or incompetence from coaches. This is about systemic failure at the highest levels of league leadership. And one of the most respected voices in sports media just went scorched earth on WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert in a way that should have her job security in serious question. Bruce Drennan, a veteran radio host who has covered professional sports for decades, who has seen every type of commissioner, every type of leadership failure, every type of institutional collapse, looked directly into the camera and said what everybody has been thinking but nobody in mainstream media has had the guts to say out loud. He called Kathy Engelbert the worst commissioner in the history of professional sports. Not just bad, not just ineffective, The worst in history across all sports, in our lifetimes. Let that sink in for a second. And then listen to why he said it. Because the receipts are undeniable.
And it's just amazing that she's remained silent and she's fearing for her life. And apparently Caitlin Clark was supposed to go on social media and defend herself being punched in the throat.
It's just so crazy. And here's the thing, like we talked about before, if you want to kill the goose that laid the golden egg, keep this up. Everybody wants to love this sport. Everybody wants to love this player.
Yeah.
Take the ride, baby. Take the W. Instead, they are wrecking their own sport by not only not calling fouls when they should, they're making it even worse because they're making casual fans like me. I'm not a fan, but you know, if Caitlin Clark's going to be on, might I leave the remote on for a couple of minutes? Sure, but not as long as I think they're
Caitlin Clark has been targeted ever since she came into the WNBA. They have practically molested her physically with non-calls being made. Let me repeat that because the language Bruce Drennan used is not an exaggeration. It is an accurate description of what we have all watched happen on live television for months. Caitlin Clark gets shoved, gets elbowed, gets undercut on layups, gets grabbed on drives, gets held off ball, gets screened illegally, gets bumped out of bounds, and the referees swallow their whistles. Game after game after game, we have the footage, we have the slow motion replays, we have former referees going on podcasts saying they have never seen anything like it. And the commissioner, the person whose job it is to protect the integrity of the game, to ensure player safety, to make sure the rules are enforced equally, has said nothing, done nothing, allowed it to continue unchecked. And Bruce Drennan is right to call her out because this is not a small failure. This is not a minor oversight. This is the commissioner of a professional sports league watching the biggest star that league has ever produced get physically abused on a nightly basis and choosing to do absolutely nothing about it. And here is the part that should make every single Caitlin Clark fan furious. The players doing this to her, the ones throwing the elbows, the ones celebrating the cheap shots, the ones talking trash in post-game interviews should be kissing her tail for putting that sport on the map. Bruce Drennan said it perfectly. Nobody cared about the WNBA before Caitlin Clark. That is not an opinion, that is a fact. The ratings prove it, the attendance proves it, the search traffic proves it, the social media engagement proves it. The only reason the WNBA is in existence is because the NBA funds it. It has been a subsidized league for decades. And Caitlin Clark is the first player in WNBA history who has generated enough revenue, enough attention, enough cultural relevance to actually make the league financially viable on its own. She is putting fans in the seats. She is putting eyes on screens. She is putting money in pockets. And instead of gratitude, instead of respect, instead of protection, she is getting targeted physically, verbally, systematically. And the commissioner is letting it happen. And just when you think it cannot get any more blatant, just when you think the establishment has run out of ways to undermine Caitlin Clark, we get the Alyssa Thomas situation. The throat punch heard around the world. The most egregious on-court assault we have seen in years. And instead of accountability, instead of consequences, instead of the league stepping in and saying this behavior is unacceptable, we get Alyssa Thomas playing the victim, claiming she is receiving death threats, claiming she fears for her safety, claiming that Caitlin Clark should have defended her on social media. Let me make sure I have this straight. Alyssa Thomas punched Caitlin Clark in the throat on live television, got caught on camera, got replayed 1,000 times, and somehow Thomas is the victim in this scenario. Somehow Clark is the bad guy for not rushing to social media to protect the player who just assaulted her. The audacity is breathtaking. And the media coverage has been even worse because instead of holding Thomas accountable, instead of asking why she threw the punch in the first place, we are getting think pieces about how Caitlin Clark needs to be more vocal, more supportive, more willing to defend her opponents. It is insane, absolutely insane, and it proves everything we have been saying about how this league operates. Fox News picked up the story. The big weekend show dedicated an entire segment to it, and the hosts did not hold back. They called out the double standard. They called out the hypocrisy. They called out the fact that if you want to kill the goose that laid the golden egg, this is exactly how you do it. Let me show you what they said, because this is mainstream media finally catching up to what we have been documenting for months. They are wrecking their own sport. They are wrecking their own sport by not only refusing to call fouls when they should, but by making it worse with the narratives they push, the victims they create, the accountability they refuse to enforce. And the Fox News host nailed it when he said he is a casual fan who might leave the remote on for a couple of minutes if Caitlin Clark is playing, but not if he thinks they are mistreating her. That is the reality the WNBA is facing right now. They have a once-in-a-generation superstar who can bring casual fans into the league, who can convert non-basketball fans into WNBA viewers, who can build a sustainable audience that lasts beyond her career. And instead of capitalizing on that opportunity, instead of protecting that investment, instead of doing everything in their power to make sure Caitlin Clark has a long, healthy, successful career in this league, they are actively driving fans away. They are making people tune out. They are creating a toxic environment where the biggest star gets punched in the throat and somehow ends up being the villain in the story. It is organizational malpractice on a scale we have never seen before. and Kathy Engelbert is still sitting in her office doing absolutely nothing about it. So let me bring this full circle because the Becky Hammond situation is not an isolated incident. It is part of a pattern. A deliberate, coordinated institutional pattern of coaches, players, referees, and league executives working together to control the narrative around Caitlin Clark, to make sure she does not get too much credit, to make sure the old guard does not get overshadowed, to make sure A'ja Wilson keeps her MVP, to make sure the establishment stays in power. And the post-game interaction between Becky Hammon and Stephanie White is the smoking gun. It is the moment where the mask slipped. It is the moment where two head coaches got caught on camera celebrating a result that had nothing to do with basketball and everything to do with protecting the people who run this league behind closed doors. And I have been telling you this for weeks. I have been documenting this in video after video. I have been stacking receipts, calling out the patterns, predicting exactly how this was going to play out. And every single time, the evidence proves me right. 3 weeks ago, I told you Stephanie White was going to make coaching decisions designed to boost A'ja Wilson's MVP case at Caitlin Clark's expense. And look what happened. 2 weeks ago, I told you the referees were going to let physical play against Clark escalate without consequences. And look what happened. Last week, I told you the establishment media was going to flip the Alyssa Thomas throat punch into a story about Clark being unsupportive. And look what happened. I am not guessing. I am not speculating. I am reading the room. I am following the money. I am connecting the dots that the mainstream media refuses to acknowledge. And I am telling you right now, this is only going to get worse before it gets better. So here are my 5 predictions for the next 2 weeks. I want you to screenshot this. I want you to save this timestamp. I want you to come back when these predictions come true and tell me I called it, because I am staking my credibility on this and I am not worried. Prediction number 1, Becky Hammon is going to continue sitting A'ja Wilson in strategically important games for the rest of the regular season. Not every game, just the ones where a loss benefits the playoff seeding narrative the establishment wants. And every time she does it, she is going to smile in the post-game handshake line like she just won the lottery. Mark this video. If Hammond sits Wilson in 2 or more games down the stretch and the Aces lose both, I want every single person watching to come back and tell me I was right. Prediction number 2. Stephanie White is going to make a rotation decision in the next 10 days that deliberately limits Caitlin Clark's minutes in a crucial game. It is going to be framed as load management. It is going to be framed as keeping her fresh for the playoffs. But the real reason is going to be protecting A'ja Wilson's MVP narrative by making sure Clark does not have another signature performance that shifts the conversation. Save this clip. When it happens, you will know exactly why. Prediction number 3. The WNBA is going to issue a statement in the next 72 hours defending the officiating in recent games involving Caitlin Clark. It is going to be a generic, corporate, carefully worded statement that says absolutely nothing of substance. It is going to claim the referees are doing a great job. It is going to dismiss fan concerns as overblown. And it is going to prove once again that Kathy Engelbert has no intention of protecting the biggest star this league has ever seen. Watch the next 2 weeks. When that statement drops, remember where you heard it first. Prediction number 4. A'ja Wilson is going to win MVP, and the voting is going to be closer than it should be. And the media is going to spend the next month writing think pieces about how Caitlin Clark actually deserved it, but the voters were too biased against rookies to give it to her. This is the setup. This is the narrative they are building. They are going to let Wilson win, let the establishment celebrate, and then 6 months from now, they are going to admit that Clark should have won, but it was too controversial to give it to her in year 1. Mark this prediction. Come back in April and tell me I was wrong. Prediction number 5. The Indiana Fever are going to make the playoffs, and Stephanie White is going to get Coach of the Year votes, and Caitlin Clark is going to get Rookie of the Year, and the entire media establishment is going to spend the offseason pretending that everything worked out great and there was never any controversy. And casual fans are going to forget about the throat punch, forget about the non-calls, forget about the sabotage, forget about Becky Hammond smiling after losses. And the cycle is going to start all over again next season, unless we keep the receipts, unless we keep the pressure on, unless we refuse to let the memory hold the most blatant mistreatment of a superstar athlete we have seen in modern sports history. Those are my 5 predictions. Screenshot them, save them, come back in 2 weeks and tell me how many I got right. Because I am not guessing. I am reading the blueprint, and the blueprint is obvious. Now here is what I need from you, because this is bigger than one video. This is bigger than one controversy. This is about whether we are going to let the WNBA establishment bury the most important player this league has ever had, or whether we are going to hold them accountable every single step of the way. So I am giving you a 3-part call to action, and I need you to do all 3. First, drop your most honest take in the comments. Is Becky Hammon deliberately sabotaging games to protect the MVP narrative, or is there a legitimate basketball reason for sitting A'ja Wilson that I am missing? Pick a side, defend it, bring receipts, I want to see the debate. Second, save this comment and come back on April 15th. If A'ja Wilson wins MVP and at least 3 of my 5 predictions came true, I want you to come back to this video and tell me I called it. If I am wrong, roast me. I will take the heat, but I am not wrong, and you know it. Third, tag the friend who keeps telling you Caitlin Clark is overrated, that the physicality is normal, that the league is treating her fairly. Make them watch this entire video. Make them explain the Becky Hammond smile. Make them explain the Stephanie White whisper. Make them explain why the commissioner has said nothing. And then ask them if they still believe the establishment has Caitlin Clark's best interests at heart. And here is what is coming next, because I am not done with this story. Tomorrow I am dropping a video breaking down the referee assignments for the final 2 weeks of the regular season, and I am going to show you exactly which crews are going to be assigned to Fever games, and I am going to predict which games are going to have the most controversial calls, and I am going to prove that the officiating is not random. It is deliberate, it is coordinated, and it is designed to control outcomes. If you are not subscribed, you are going to miss it. Hit the bell, you need to see this. This is Hoops Central. We will see you in the next video.